Serious, when did a gut feeling save your life? Attention! Serious tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment. Parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour. And posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot. And this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit /message/compose/to/r/AskReddit if you have any questions or concerns. Went on a date with someone from Tinder. The whole time he's talking about himself, it's nothing but the worst of the worst stories. About him being abusive to his multiple exes but blaming them. Telling me how his daughter hates him and other horrible stuff that I can't even bring myself to say. While he's talking, I'm pretty much having a panic attack. The voice in my head is saying calming GTFO. So I say I have to go to family dinner. He's making every excuse to keep me and for me to go home with him, so I just get in my car and go. We're at a Starbucks outside. He follows me. So I call my mom, she tells me to go over and she's calling the cops. Luckily she lives in a gated community where a guard is at the booth, so he can't follow me in. He turns around and speeds off. The cops get there, I give them all the information I have on this guy. He went into details about his life and I told the cops everything. Turns out this guy kidnapped and brutally raped a girl and was on the run and was stupid enough to tell me his real name when we met in person. It was a long summer of multiple court dates just to end in him getting a bull's peep sentence. Well, that's terrifying. Good thing you're safe and called the cops instead of brushing it off like most women would do. Since we constantly get called dramatic for being scared. Right. I'm so glad I did call them. Once they found out who he was, I saw the shock on their faces. That's when I knew it was serious. Long story short, I followed a random dude off the street when I was 8 and ended up choosing the only guy in the city who would actually lead me home. You were 8? No way in hell this gentleman didn't drop whatever he was actually out doing to take you to your destination safely. Unless you seen or find out what he intended on going there for. Not sure if it saved my life. But I was driving once and had a gut feeling this guy pulling out of his driveway up ahead was just gonna go right ahead without looking to see if anyone was coming. I put my foot over my brake pedal and my hand on my handbrake just in case. Glad I did. I was in a compact too. Guy was in a truck. I would have been completely wrecked. Same here. I was driving to work one day and I was nearing an intersection that often had accidents. In fact, one of my former neighbors died in an accident at that intersection. So I was always careful going through it. I was waiting at a red light. The light turned green. But something told me to wait before going. So I did. Sure enough. A white Volvo, I still remember the exact car, came blasting through the intersection from the left-hand side to me and didn't even slow down. Had I not waited, I'm pretty sure I would have been seriously hurt or killed. As a teenager in Ireland, one day I got this overwhelming feeling to stay at home from school. Good thing I did, 'cause my friends called me later that night to say a girl who was bullying me brought her junkie friend onto the school campus. Hid in the toilets for most of the day, waiting to beat the speep out of me. My friends weirdly overheard the plan while they were using the toilets at morning break. This was the time before mobile phones were used. So they each called me later that night. Did anything happen to her or the junkie friend? He's still there, hiding in the toilets, waiting for his moment. Don't know if this is a gut feeling or I just got plain lucky. Used to live in a really sketchy part of town. I decided not to go to the gym this one evening because I was super tired that day. That same evening, around the same time that I would normally walk to the gym, there was a shooting in an intersection that was part of my usual route. 2 people died. I think to myself, had I decided to go to the gym that day, 3 people may have died. So I got really lucky, ironically, by skipping gym. This is exactly why I don't ever go to the gym. Not driving off immediately as the light turned green. Sure enough, a second later 2 cars smashed into each other, probably right where I would have been had I taken off when the light turned green. Scary seeing a head-on collision happen literally less than 10 feet in front of you. This is why it's important to check your intersection to make sure cars are slowing and stopping before you go. It takes a moment longer and it'll save your life. Defensive driving 101. Facts. The amount of times I've watched cars blow through an intersection seconds after the light already changed is too damn high. Had some guys try to mug me and my friend in the middle of the night. I refused to cough up any money until they gave me a good reason. They claimed to have a gun, which they either didn't have or had not drawn. I bet on the former. When one guy said he wanted to get beer, I handed him what I had on me, 20. And my friend gave them what he had on him, a few bucks. They got in their car and drove off toward a roundabout about a half-mile away. But when they started to double back, I knew something was wrong. I told my friend to run toward his house, which was really close by. I followed. And when the car turned to follow us, we were turning down another street. So I grabbed my friend and pulled him into a nearby alcove and told him to stay still and shut up. The car zipped around the turn and hauled ass down the street. His house was a few over and across the street. So when they turned into a cul-de-sac a little further down, we bolted to his house and got inside without issue. Dumbest speep I'd ever done. But I knew the moment they turned around that if we didn't act quickly, something bad was going to happen. They left the gun in the car. That or they were coming back to jump us. I'd rather overreact to getting my ass whipped than be wrong. I don't remember this, but is a story my father told me. I was an extremely social kid up until age 5 or 6. Never met a stranger and loved people. My favorite thing to do was go to the mall to say hi to literally everyone. When I was around 4 years old, we lived next to a retired couple. Their 30-something-year-old son came to live them and they wanted to introduce him to us. I was in the driveway with my parents when they took the opportunity to come do the introduction. According to my dad, I yelped at the sight of their son and hid behind my dad. Since this was so unusual, he let me hide and just said I was shy with strangers. They didn't come back over and my parents stopped talking to them. A few months later, the neighbor's son was arrested with terabytes of child porn. He had just gotten out of jail after being convicted of child molestation. No telling what could have happened had my parents continued their friendship with our neighbors. He had already been in jail for child molestation and his parents thought, oh, let's make sure to introduce them to the neighbors with a small child. Holy hell, people are so beeped up. Denial is one hell of a drug. Trust me. I was driving home from work and it was pouring rain so bad and so heavy that I could barely see the back of the car in front of me, but people were still zipping through like it was nothing. All of a sudden I felt a really strong urge to take the next exit, even though in my mind I was like, home isn't that far. Just keep going. But it was kind of like keeping straight became out of bounds and my car just took the exit. Drove until I found a familiar parking lot and waited out the rain for a bit until I gathered the courage to keep going. I backtracked a little bit and got on the freeway a couple of exits before the one I had previously gotten off on. When I passed that area, a short ways down, they were still cleaning up an accident that I probably would have been involved in if I decided to keep going. Definitely had a guardian angel with me that day. I was in the public transport of my city. It was not very late. But the bus was a bit empty. I must clarify that I am a woman. I sat next to a window to receive more air and a homeless man got on at a stop. At that moment all I thought was, please don't sit next to me, and boom. He sat next to me. I remember he was young. He smelled awful and he started flirting with me. Saying things like, hey blonde. Why so lonely, or why so quiet? I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. Everyone on the bus noticed this and no one was trying to help me. So the bum started grabbing strands of hair and stroking it. I told him to stop. Then a thought crossed my mind, and it was, what do I do if this guy pulls out a knife and forces me to go down with him at one of the following stations? The bus stopped at a station, and with shaky legs, I quickly got up and said, here I get off. He tried to grab my arm to avoid it. But I moved it before he took it and then yelled, don't get off. Let's keep talking. I immediately got off at a station that I did not know and that was dangerous. I began to look for a policeman with my eyes, in case the homeless man got off the bus too. I did not find any policeman. But fortunately the guy did not come after me. Days later, on Instagram, on a page of the university to which I belong, which is mainly dedicated to gossiping, but also to alert other university students of different dangers, a girl commented on the same situation I went through. Only that the tramp had pointed a knife at her so that she could get off at a station with him. He did it, and after taking her to a place very far from the city, he tried to abuse her and kill her. But fortunately he was able to escape thanks to some inhabitants. It's the sector the tramp took her to. Wow! I'm glad you followed your instincts and are safe. Terrifying.